Hey, what's going on, team? It's Ricky with TechBot Solutions, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the top stocks that our group sees value in. So I'm going to be breaking down the stocks that our people within Learn Plan Profit called out and our people within TechBot Solutions called out. Anytime that you're in any of these group chats, if you make your way on over to the watch list section, which in the within the TechBot Solutions group chat, you just go on over to pinned messages right up here, and you can see that you have that ticker call out format, which makes it a little bit easier for you to break down and call out whatever stock it is that you see value in, and it gives a little bit more background information on why it is that you see that value. Same thing with Learn Plan Profit, but it's called Group Alerts, and again, it is on the top pinned messages. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with the Learn Plan Profit group, and let me just make my way on over to the start of today, which is going to be right on here with JAR, JBLU. We got that right on over here. So one of the things that I want to talk about is right now I'm on the 180-day 4-hour chart. One of the things that we've been seeing is this very consistent kind of like downward pattern. There's two things that I want to talk about is, first of all, there's three things that I like to focus on. First thing is its overall direction. We can see that its direction is pointing down. The SMA line is a really good indicator for that. That's this green line that you see there. Feel free to Google it, YouTube it to learn more about the SMA line. But I like to identify and use it to have a better understanding of overall direction. I like the pattern as well because it's easy to understand kind of like the low points, the high points, the low points, the high points, the low points, the high points. It looks like it peaked out already, and it looks like it's now starting to downtrend. The MACD is really starting to consolidate, so it's trying to find the support right around this general area. It looks like it's done this before where it peaks out, pulls back, bounces right around the SMA line, which is again that green line, and then it pops right back up. Again, there's no confirmation just yet, and it's still getting rejected by this EMA line. So I'll do one of two things. I'm going to set my alert to see if it breaks below 1650, and if it does, then most likely it's going to continue that downward pattern. But guess what? Just as much as it could go down, it can go up. And just for the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to set the alert here. If it breaks above around that 1730 price point, I think it'd be very interesting to see. I mean, regardless if you see value in this or not, if you're someone that's trying to become more familiar with just overall patterns, to not even actively be trading these, but just to follow through with them and to see if you could identify yes, I think that this is going to continue to downtrend just like it's downtrended before because of its overall pattern and direction, and it just makes sense due to previous patterns, and it makes sense due to the overall EMA line. It's still trending below that. It's going to most likely still continue to act as a resistance. So I think it would just be very interesting to follow if you're someone that's just getting started as well. So JBLU, that's going to be the breakdown on that one. We got JAR with another breakdown. CZR. Let's go ahead and go right on over here. CZR. Let's click on that. Okay, so it looks like we have another downward pattern. It recently pushed above this SMA line, right, which is this green line here. Pushed up, hit a resistance right around $10, pulled back, bounced off the SMA line, and is now trying to show signs of a potential reversal. Again, it was getting rejected by this blue line, which is this EMA line. Again, Google search it, YouTube search it, learn a little bit more about how to use that EMA line. I have a couple videos on it, and again, so many people have videos about the EMA line as well. But now it recently broke above the EMA line, so now it's starting to show signs, instead of a downward pattern, a potential change of direction. So now we want to see if this is going to continue. So I'm going to set my alert to see if it continues to break above that, or if it actually is just a false reversal and it's just going to peak out there. The MACD is going to peak out, and then we'll most likely see this thing continue to downtrend. We don't know, but then that's why we just set our alert and then wait for the overall confirmation. So I'm going to set my alert for the break below the SMA line, because if it breaks below that, then we'll most likely continue with its overall direction, which is what I think is most likely going to happen, is because its overall direction is just a continuous downtrend pattern, that most likely, although it did push up, it's just going to be a matter of time for this thing to continue and follow down here. So thank you again for that call out though. Here we go, ticker symbol TILE. We've broken this one down before. Wow, come on, Rick. Here we go. Strong downward pattern, recently broke above, again, the SMA line. Pushed up, pulled back. MACD looks decent, so that makes sense on why it can reverse back up. So you can see that the MACD is starting to reverse back up. SMA line is starting to kind of build a support and trying to reverse back up. But altogether, I just don't like how aggressive this descending pattern is. It just looks like, based off recent patterns, it started to actively trend up, and it also had some positive news due to its earnings. Let's let's look at it a little bit closer. So its volume is low enough that I personally would not trade it, but that's just me. Looks like the 20-day 1-hour chart is also a pretty consistent pattern, and it's been following and holding above the overall SMA line on the 20-day 1-hour chart. So I think that'd be something interesting to keep a close eye on if it's something that you see value in, but it's definitely not bad, especially as a short-term play. I wouldn't say that this would be like a long-term trade at all. Again, it's something that aggressively has descended from time to time, but if you see that within the day, just again going back to the 20-day 1-hour chart, because it sold off so aggressively all of last week, and the week before that, almost for a month, it showed very consistent signs of an uptrend. I mean, the overall growth that it experienced there was nearly 20%, so no question, like, that's huge. Can it go back up to $19? Possibly, right? But it could go back down to $15.50, right? So just as much as it could go up, it could go down. So you just want to make sure that you play with the direction in your favor, and that means that we have to wait for the confirmation. So the margin of profit isn't bad. It's about 9% if it ends up going back up to $19.50. But now we just need to wait for this thing to make higher highs, especially if you want to play by like day by day, then so be it, right? There's nothing wrong with that, and you can manage your risk along the way as long as you see the opportunity cost and the risk to be worth it within the day, and as long as you have your whole plan set up, then I think that's what's important. So thank you again for that call out. We set our couple alerts there, and I'm also going to set my alert to see if this thing breaks below its overall support and to see if this thing starts making lower lows. So let's go ahead and go to the next one, CRNT. CRNT. Here we go. I like this one. So CRNT, this one shows a little bit more signs of a consistent uptrend pattern. It's not super like stable or just super flowy, but it's at least consistent enough where we could see that the SMA line normally tends to act like as a general support, and it normally bounces around here, and then it, when it becomes a little bit more overextended, it's very easy to identify, like as it approaches, $4.50 to $5 here, that it's not a good deal. It's a little bit more overextended, and it makes sense on why to sell. So it's been selling off for quite some time. Now it's consolidating. Usually what happens after consolidation, well, if it performs correctly, then we'll see an overall reversal. We'll see this thing break above the EMA line just like it's done it before, and then start to push back up. And again, the margin of profit is pretty nice, but now we just have to wait for the confirmation. So we can draw the little resistance line there. We could draw our little support line here, and now we just need to wait for the confirmation. This doesn't mean that this has to be something that you have to swing trade or anything of that sort. It's, you play it as you want and as you feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable trading it, then even just following with it, writing it down on a piece of paper of like where you would buy it, where you would sell it, or if you would day trade it, or if you would swing trade it, just to become more familiar with its overall patterns, as I think that the patterns are consistent enough that you can successfully like trade this one. It doesn't mean that you actually have to, if you're someone that's just getting started, actually invest your actual hard-earned money, especially if you're still just trying to get your feet wet. I would 100% say, just test it out a couple of times before getting started. So let's go ahead and then move on to the next one. So I'm going to set my alert here and there. But I like that pattern. That pattern has to be one of my favorite ones so far. So we got Henry GLDD. Here we go. So GLDD, very consistent uptrend pattern, really strong push up. So again, it's one of the questions that I like to ask myself is, first, do I like the direction? SMA line, as you guys can see here, is pointing up. EMA line is pointing up. Very consistent, showing signs of an uptrend. I like that. Second thing is the pattern, consistent uptrend pattern. I like that. The last thing is opportunity cost. So again, and I know you guys like with this like analogy, but an iPhone, right? If your whole purpose to buy and sell an iPhone, if you were to buy one for $300 and sell it for $500, the margin of profit is $200, so it's worth it, right? But if the margin of profit is only $5 and you bought it for $495 and you're going to sell it for $500, is it even worth investing to flip that iPhone? Probably not, right? Same thing when it comes down to when I look at GLDD. I don't know exactly when it's going to peak out. All I know is looking at previous patterns for GLDD, right? And looking at the RSI and looking at the MACD, this is not a good deal. It's super far and super overextended from the SMA line. It's super stretched out, and it's just like to put into simple terms, it's not a good deal. Look at all the volume that it recently has gone through due to its earnings. Just a series of different reasons on why it probably wouldn't be, based off previous patterns, my best trade right now. And because of that, that would be a reason why I would stay away. Yes, it can continue to go up, and we can hope that it does. But again, let's not trade based off of hope. Let's just have a reason behind everything that is that we do. And to me, there's a reason on why GLDD would begin to pull back, because it's overextended. BB. All right, thank you, Chris. Here we go. So we have a pretty consistent downward pattern here. Recently broke above the SMA line. All right. So we're getting a lot of consolidation right around that $8 price point. I'm going to have to get a little bit closer. 20-day 1 hour. Yeah, it looks like it's performing really nicely to the 20-day 1 hour chart. It's a little bit easier for me to read. It looks like we have a slight resistance around 880. Do you see this? A lot of consolidation right here, right here, right here. So I'd identify this to be a critical point. So I'd like to follow up with this and see if it actually can hold and break above, 8.80. Because if it just continues to consolidate here, there's no, we could buy around this area, but there's no more margin of profit. So I'm all about buying, for a good deal and selling it for where it's, where it begins to consolidate or hit a resistance. And right now, this is the resistance, and the SMA line is viewed more as the support. So I'm going to set my alert down here. So again, it's not just identifying like a nice consistent uptrend pattern. It's not just about investing in patterns that are showing signs of an uptrend, but it's also making sure that every opportunity that you take advantage of, that the opportunity cost and the margin of profit is actually worth it. Here we go. So we got EBS. All right. All right. So a very consistent uptrend pattern right around this general area here. We had a nice little sell-off, and it began to pull back right around the $55 area. Now it's getting rejected by the SMA line. Do you guys see this? So the SMA line, which is this green line, was acting as a support, and what I mean by that is it would push up, it would pull back, bounce at the SMA line, push up, pull back. It consolidated here, broke below the SMA line, right, which used to act as a support, and now when it pushed back up, it got rejected. So now the old support is acting as a new resistance, and it did this once again. So yes, it can try to push up, but now we're most likely going to start seeing this thing start showing signs of a downward pattern. And this is a bio solution. I just have not had the best experience trading this specific niche of stocks, just in my experience. Again, my experience has nothing to do with your trading. Just make sure you do your own due diligence. There's a lot of manipulation that happens when it comes down to this specific niche, as a lot of false news can be shared. So as of right now, yes, it is a little bit more on the oversold side. It is still below the EMA line, and if it does try to push up, again, it makes sense on why it can try to reach $65. I just don't like that now it's starting to trend down. And again, one of the things that we always like to ask ourselves is, especially if you're under the PDT rule, which means that you could only day trade, which means buy and sell the same stock within the same date 3 times within a 5-day period, you have 3 opportunities to make the most within the next 5 days, right? To be like your 3 top stocks. So is this really going to be the top stock that you're going to choose? Is this like, the golden nugget? And if it's not, then why are you trading it? It should be that simple, right? If it's not something that like you feel comfortable with, that makes sense to you, that the margin of profit is worth it, that is playing in your favor, then don't trade it. Again, if you're someone that's just getting started, you should be saying more no than you are yes, because those that say yes to everything are not selective, and trust me, like, over trading will hurt you, and with experience, you will go through that. So let's go ahead and go to the next one. So ticker symbol GUSH. Here we go. Alright, so very strong downward pattern. We're going through a lot of consolidation right now, so it looks like it's trying to hold above this overall SMA line, right? So I think it's still way too early to tell. It's been consolidating here for quite some time. It had a really strong day on Friday, went up 6%. It looks like it's still trying to hold above the SMA line right here. I think, we just want to. I would just play it day by day, not a swing trade, nothing like that. Especially because it was a very strong downward pattern. But as long as it continues to try to rally, and it trends up within the day, let me go ahead and just double check. Yeah, it looks like a lot of the movement, especially on Friday, was all done most likely during pre-market hours that pushed it up. But as long as we see this thing trading in between the middle and top VWAP and it begins to show signs of an uptrend, then great. But if you see Gush beginning to downtrend and trading between the middle and bottom VWAP, and again, if you don't know what the VWAP indicator is, feel free to YouTube it, Google it. I have a video on it, but so do many others. Learn a little bit more about it and why it's so important to understand its overall direction for the day. But yeah, thank you again for that call out. Ticker symbol RIG. Here we go, 2% on Friday. Very similar pattern, strong downward pattern, consolidating right around the SMA line. Again, very indifferent, trying to find a support around the SMA line. It's kind of like at a critical point. We don't know if it's finding a support. We don't know if it's going to get rejected or actually bounce. So again, I'm going to be like, I would play this day by day. Overall resistance based off previous patterns would be right around 901, but we don't even know if it's going to bounce yet. So again, I think it's still way too early to tell, in my honest opinion, for that one just yet. Here we go. Alright, so this one's kind of all over the place. As of right now, we just recently broke below the overall EMA line. Again, easiest way for me to put this is this the best deal that you can get? Looking at overall, I mean, this looks like scary, right? Just looks very messy. But what I try to focus on is the overall low points and the overall high points. Is this the best deal that you can get based off previous patterns? No, it looks like it was at lows of 40, right? And it recently pushed up to highs of almost 65, and it pulled back, and then it pushed up, and now it's pulling back again. So it makes sense on why it can pull back, why it might bounce around the SMA line, and then why that might be a better time to buy then if it bounces, and then sell at the highs rather than try to buy now and hope that it continues to go up again. It's not about being hopeful, but actually having a reason behind everything that you do. Here we go, strong downward pattern. I would just say, again, if you want to invest in patterns that are showing signs of growth, right? If you want to grow your account, then invest in patterns that are showing signs of growth. This is a strong downward pattern. I just don't know why this would make too much sense to trade. But yeah, very strong downward pattern here for ticker symbol ELF. Here we go, CRMD. CRMD, yeah, this was actually pretty nice. Very consistent uptrend pattern, consolidating a lot around the SMA line, but again, it's just consolidating, no signs of an uptrend yet. It's cool to be able to catch something at the very bottom, but what's actually much better is to be able to catch it when it's actively trending up, and that's what it's not doing just yet. So I would set my alert here, set a series of alerts, and again, just a nice little reminder that we don't know if it's actually going to bounce here just because it's bounced here before, but what we do know is after it does confirm a reversal, we have a better understanding of the direction that it might be playing. So I would simply wait out for that. SLBD. Alright, so here we go, another strong downward pattern. Looks like it had a really aggressive sell-off, and it looks like it's trying to do this cup and handle pattern. I just, again, bioscience, aggressive downward pattern, yeah, just a bunch of different factors and indicators about SLDB are telling me to stay away. It just doesn't make sense to be hopeful to try to make money off of this when its overall pattern and direction is just not something that is showing signs of growth. So because of that, I would personally just stay away. Again, it's knowing when to say no. So MTNB. Here we go. So I like this one. It's a very consistent uptrend pattern. Overall SMA line, great. Normally where the support is found. Very last thing though, I like the direction. I like the pattern. It's the opportunity cost. Super overbought, super overextended. It makes sense on why it can pull back more than why it can continue to uptrend. So that's why I would personally stay away from where it's at right now. It just makes more sense that it's more on the overbought side than it is on the oversold side. But just for the sake of it, I'm just going to set my alerts. But even if it does continue to uptrend, that's great for those that are still in it. But I just have to understand that based off previous patterns, it makes sense on why it will pull back, and I have to accept that. So thank you again for that call out. AVP. Yep, same thing. Extremely overbought, overextended. I would set an alert for this thing as it gets closer to the overall SMA line. But as of right now, just not too interested in investing in something that's not a good deal. Okay. This one's pretty choppy. Looks like the SMA line is trying to act as a support now, with a very almost weird resistance right around the $25 price. When it looks like almost every time that it hits this area, it gets rejected, pushes, gets rejected. So I would like to see if we can break above 25 and see if we can continue that uptrend pattern. So again, this one would be something that I would just watch closely. UWT. So UWT follows /CL, and I'm very familiar with that. So UWT as of right now is pulling back, just like /CL is pulling back, and it's actually a question that I asked those that are part of Learn Plan Profit and TechBot Solutions of what they thought, if it's a pullback or if it's the beginning of a downward pattern. I think it's just a pullback. So again, if we go to /CL and see the pattern that it's kind of hosting, it tends to pull back and then it continues to push up. It has a really strong resistance right around that $58 price point. So just something that we could follow up with. But as of right now, it's still holding above the SMA line, and the SMA line is still pointing up. So I think that's still in favor of UWT, but that doesn't mean that UWT and /CL cannot still continue to sell off, as it did sell off quite a bit on Friday. But yeah, let's simply follow up with it and watch it a little bit closer. Looks like we've got people still posting right now. I was like, these are a lot more than I thought from when I first started. Here you go, strong upward pattern. I like this one. Ticker symbol GLUU. This probably has to be one of my favorite ones. We used to talk about this one all the time. Consistent uptrend pattern, now above the EMA line, based off previous resistance right on that $10 price point. Not huge margins, but still a decent amount, and a very consistent pattern. So I think that this one is pretty attractive. The only thing I would watch out for this one is the MACD and the RSI as of right now, as it might peak out before it continues to downtrend. If that makes sense. So as of right now, yes, we do hope that it can continue to uptrend, but one of the things that might be happening is it making lower highs. So that just might be something that we have to kind of wait out for and see if it can begin to make higher highs, or if it's actually just going to continue to downtrend. So I'm just going to set my alerts for both sides and kind of go from there. There we go. FLGT. Alrighty, so extremely overbought, yeah, and this is a penny stock. Yeah, very low volume. I would not trade this at all. Low volume, looks like a lot of manipulation. You can see this by the fluctuation of volume and volatility. Yeah, just not something that I would like to be a part of. So last one is ticker symbol DRIP. So DRIP is the inverse of, if I'm not mistaken, GUSH. And as we can see here, had a really strong push up, pulled back. We talked about Gush earlier, right? And this is the exact opposite. So the overall SMA line is pointing down. This thing has been making lower lows. So again, I still think it's very early to tell if this thing's going to continue to sell off or if this thing's going to push right back up. I'd say that this is on a critical point, and just playing it day by day would make the most sense. But again, as of right now, SMA line is pointing down, so it would definitely be more in favor of ticker symbol Gush. So those are the breakdowns for the ones in a Learn Plan Profit watch list. So I think there's just only a few in this one. So yeah, we talked about drip already. BRKS. Here we go. A little bit more on the overbought side makes sense on why it can continue to downtrend. The MACD looks like it's trying to build a support and then try to continue to rally. If you know a little bit more about this company, you would feel comfortable doing that, then great. I just don't like how overpriced it is based on where it's been before. or the price that it's been at before, just because of previous patterns. So because of that, I would just say like it's not the best deal. Like it would make more sense for this thing to pull back to the SMA line and to find a support there and then continue to uptrend, as the margin of profit would be worth it, the technicals would make sense, and indicators would make sense, and not just hopeful and fear of missing out and trying to get in here to make the 4 to 5% margin that it might have still left in it. So yeah, I would say right now it's just not the best deal. Here we go, Shen. We're going through quite a bit of stocks. I like this one. Very consistent uptrend pattern, finding support right around the SMA line. I like this one. This has to be one of my favorites, again, called out in this Sunday stock talk. Overall, SMA line pointing up. I like the pattern based off previous resistance. $50 makes sense. Let's say we wait for the break above the EMA line, and then the resistance 6%, definitely not bad, and it's a very consistent uptrend pattern. And if you look into the company and it makes sense to you, and you feel comfortable with it, then great. Just like we talked about, when it trades in between the middle and top view up, it's very easy to make money when you just go with the flow and follow its direction, just kind of like how Shen did on Friday. So great call out on this one. We talked about UWT, CATS. Let's see. There we go. So CATS, very consistent uptrend pattern. Overall resistance right around $12 to $13. It looks like it's trying to find a support right around the overall SMA line. I would still say it needs a little bit more time. Just it has 1 day confirmation above the EMA line. I would like to wait for higher highs. So I think that this one would be something interesting to follow with, and the margin of profit seems to be worth it as well. But that would definitely be more of a day trade. No, it's just not something that I would trade. But for those that like those, all power to you. Here we go. Same thing, just not something that I would trade. One of the things that I wanted to leave you guys with, if it's okay for me to say, is when it comes down, we talked about /CL. One of the things that I really like to focus on is simply direction, right? Like when something is making you money and when something is showing signs of growth, you tend to feel more comfortable with your overall like trade and position. That's the easiest way I can put it. So like investing in downward patterns or investing in very aggressive and volatile stocks, like yes, you can make money, but based on my experience and based off of the feedback that I've received from other people, it just could be a little bit more stressful. It doesn't mean that it's not possible, it just means that it's a little bit more stressful. So a huge focus for me is direction. As of right now, I would like to encourage you on whatever it is that you are trading, especially if you have a huge focus in specific ETFs or ETNs and a series of futures. When it comes down to trading ETFs like UWT and DWT and being able to understand the overall direction for /CL and why that's so important, it could become and enable you to become more comfortable with those trades for those two specific ETFs. Same thing with /GC, that huge sell-off that it had, right? But it was showing signs of a very consistent uptrend pattern. Is this a good dip buy potential, or is this the beginning of an aggressive sell-off for gold? I don't know, right? So as the market opens tomorrow, then we can at least try to practice and have a better understanding of the direction that gold is going, because if gold continues to sell off, then it would be JDST that would continue to then push up. And that's very important to know, because again, you can make money on both ends, right? So if you see gold sell off, then you trade the inverse ETF. But if then you see gold begin to recover, then you can trade, JNEG as that begins to show signs of an uptrend. So again, a huge focus and direction. It makes me feel very comfortable understanding that I'm investing in something that's showing signs of an uptrend. And again, don't be so quick to jump into trading. Feel free to test it out. Feel free to just watch and become more familiar with like the patterns, the directions, and being able to like manage your risk. That's a huge part of it, and just understanding overall opportunity cost and knowing what opportunities to take advantage of and which ones to say no to. But I want to thank you guys again for your time. I do apologize that I was not able to go live. Again, I am still very sick. But I'm happy to be back in the States. Just got back from my Europe and Asia trip. But again, if you guys have not subscribed to me already, I do run the largest YouTube channel for those who invest in the stock market. We have a little bit over 500,000 subscribers. Feel free to subscribe if you guys haven't done so already. The first link in the description is for our free Facebook group. We do run the largest free Facebook group for those who invest in the stock market with over 193,000 members. We would love to be a part of your success. We would just love to stay connected. So if you want to surround yourself with like-minded individuals who are investing in different markets, then be sure to click that first link in the description, and you can decide to leave at any time as well. And again, it is 100% for free. If you're someone that wants to work with me on a closer basis and has watched a couple of my videos and you like my trading style, again, feel free to become more familiar with my trading style first. And if you're someone that appreciates that and likes that, then I encourage you to click that second link in the description and learn a little bit more about our Learn Plan Profit group and you actually being able to watch me trade live every single day. So I'm going to leave it at that. I hope I earned your thumbs up in this video. Hope you guys absolutely kill it this week. Feel free to share your top stock in the comments section and why you think it's going to be the best stock for the week. And like always, guys, continue working hard, continue following your dreams. Let your passion be what drives your success. And like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take it easy, team.